I found out I was pregnant, but my mill told my husband that I might have cheated, since my mom is a single, desperate woman who gets around, so he packed my bags, kicked me out, and said to return in 9 months with our baby and a paternity test. 2 weeks later, he called me in tears after overhearing a shocking conversation Mill had on the phone and begged me to reconcile, but then I gave him this news. My husband, Clark, and I, both 27, are currently in the process of getting a divorce, and I just found out most of it is happening because his mother had been poisoning him against me. He and I started dating 4 years ago and got married 2 years back, and for the past year or so, we've been trying for a baby. But unfortunately, we haven't been very lucky there. In spite of our consistency, I haven't been able to get pregnant yet, and it has taken its toll on our marriage. Neither of us wanted to entertain the idea that maybe one of us was infertile, so we just kept trying, and we didn't discuss the pregnancy thing too much, but the frustration took form in other fights, so we would get into a lot of petty, irrelevant fights about small stuff recently. Things were pretty strained between the two of us, but then about a month ago, I found out that I was finally pregnant after a really long time of trying. At first, both of us were really happy. We threw a party to announce it to everybody and stuff, and things were going well. But for some reason after the party we started acting very weird and differently. I couldn't put my finger on it, but all of a sudden he had started shutting me out and becoming very distant. And no matter how hard I tried, he just wouldn't tell me what his problem was. And then one day, I told him that it wouldn't work if he just kept pushing me away while I was pregnant, and I said I'd rather just go and stay with my mom if he was going to keep acting like this. That set him off. He started yelling at me like crazy. He told me that he would rather have me sent away as well because he didn't even want to see my face anymore since it only annoyed him. And he kept saying that I was just like my mom, that he should have known. And when I asked him what on earth that was supposed to mean, he told me that he knew it wasn't he who managed to get me pregnant. It must have been somebody else because he, as far as he knows, is infertile because he got himself tested a couple of weeks after finding out that we were pregnant because it seemed a little too sudden. So now he couldn't bring himself to trust me and ask me to get out. I tried to reason with him because, of course, I know I haven't cheated on him, but he was too upset to hear me out. And I couldn't deal with this crap anymore, so I just packed my stuff as quickly as I could and got out of there. I had finally snapped, and that day, I knew that I couldn't go back to this guy since he'd literally told me I could only come back after a paternity test or else I could just stay away. So I spoke to my mom. I've been staying with her, and I've also spoken to a lawyer, and I have filed for divorce. But now, all of a sudden, he wants to stop the divorce proceedings. Basically, he just found out that the results from the fertility test that he had received had been falsified. Thanks to his mom. I'm not surprised that she did something like that. She's always had it in for me right from the first day. She and my mom used to know each other since they had a couple of common friends, and she did not like my mom. When she was younger, she used to be a bit of a party animal, and according to my mother-in-law, that meant that my mom was a woman of loose character who used to get around without ever committing to anyone, and had implied that even now she's probably gone back to her old ways now because she's been single ever since my father passed away a couple of years ago. I'm not making this up. These are things that she has actually said to me, and since then I haven't spoken to my mother-in-law. This happened shortly after my wedding. I guess my mother-in-law and I got into an argument about something, and she just said all these horrible things about my mom. So I told my husband that he could keep in touch with her if he wanted to, but I wasn't going to. Clark did scold his mom a little for being so nasty about it, but eventually he did keep in touch with her, and I should have left him then and there because it's very clear that he did not respect me or my family even back then. If he had, his mom wouldn't have been able to influence him so easily because apparently, from whatever I've been told, she is the one who planted the idea into his head that I might have cheated on him because at the end of the day, I still am my mother's daughter. So that's why he felt the need to get a fertility test after telling his mom that I was pregnant. And unfortunately, his mom was able to convince him to get himself tested at her brother's clinic. Clark got duped by his own mother and uncle because they ended up falsifying the results just to start trouble between the two of us, and he fell for it. A couple of days ago, he saw some conversations between his mom and his uncle on her phone, and that's how he found out the truth. Now he's cut his mother off and he's begging me to come back, but there's no way that's happening. 2 weeks have already passed since I was kicked out, and I just can't imagine going back to him after everything that happened because it has become very clear to me that he doesn't trust me. I don't think I can stay in a marriage with no trust at all. The fact of the matter is, regardless of whatever his mother told him, He doubted me and thought I was cheating on him. And I've been feeling terrible about it. So I don't want to go back. I've spoken to my friends about this, and while they do agree that it was really stupid of him, I need to think about things from his perspective as well, because at the end of the day he did receive those test results, and anybody in their right mind will obviously instantly believe it. And he might have been struggling with what to do with that information as well, because it's not like he found out and then he immediately kicked me out. It took him a couple of weeks, and he only got triggered when I mentioned my mom. So they think it must not have been an easy decision for him either, and I need to give him the benefit of the doubt, at least for a little while. Besides, it's pretty clear that my mother-in-law had been poisoning him against me and my mom for years, so that was bound to have some effect. No matter what I do now, I can't change my mom's past. She was who she was, and it's not like I'm embarrassed or ashamed of her. But the factor remains that most people wouldn't look too kindly upon that lifestyle, because it was true that she was with a different guy every weekend when she was younger. I'm not saying it to shame her. It's just how it was. And she herself has admitted it. Of course, that doesn't give Clark and his mom the right to shame her for it either, but they are entitled to their own opinions. I just think it's weird to paint me in the same light even though he's known me for years now. Anyway, I'm just confused because at the end of the day, he did receive those test results, and I guess if I was in his place, I would feel kind of iffy about it as well, but I still don't think I want to give him a chance. But I still don't think I want to give him a second chance at this point. So Ida, if I want to get a divorce from my husband, edit. I didn't mention it because it is not exactly relevant in my situation, but yes, Clark is suing his uncle and his clinic. What they did was a serious violation, and they're going to get into a lot of trouble for that since he has proof. He has all those screenshots that he found on his mom's phone, and I'm hoping that he makes them pay for it. The two of them teamed up and ruined our marriage. They totally deserve whatever's coming. I find it shocking that his uncle risks so much to help his mom ruin our marriage, because I didn't think anybody from his family apart from his mom would be able to hate me so much. But I guess that's not how it is. Update: when it's been 2 weeks since my last update. I told Clark that I'm not coming back, and while I'm really sorry that he was followed by his own mother and uncle, I can't help it, because at the end of the day it's true that he doubted me even though I had never given him a reason to do that. He hadn't been fully transparent in our relationship either, because he hadn't told me a thing about the fertility test, and even back when he was fighting with me and accusing me of being just like my mom, I had tried to tell him that he could just get tested again because it must have been a mistake, or maybe he wasn't actually infertile anymore, because I was sure that the baby had to be his. I was sure on his behalf, but he didn't trust me enough and actually kicked me out when I was pregnant. On top of that, the things he had said about my mom were very disrespectful, and I was not going to tolerate that. My parents, regardless of how they used to be in the past before I was born, put an end to all their craziness and wild lifestyle for my sake and brought me up in the best way possible. My mom, she might have had her share of fun when she was younger, and maybe she didn't like the idea of commitment back then, but that was her choice, and I refuse to be ashamed of her for that, and at the same time neither do I like the implication that I'm the same way, especially given the fact that I've been married to him for 2 years. And I was the one who said that I wanted to start trying for a baby. If that's not a commitment, I don't know what is. Anyway, the bottom line was that he had no respect for my family, and he had no respect for me either, so I was not going to entertain the idea of going back to him. Now, he could just sit and regret whatever he had done. It was not going to change anything. After sending him that text, I blocked him so he wouldn't be able to get back to me. For a couple of days, nothing happened, so I thought that maybe he had accepted his fate. But then, about 5 days after that message, he sent me a text from a different number saying that he really wanted to meet me and talk to me because he knew that we could work it out, and he did not want to give up on our marriage so easily, especially right now when I was about to become a mother. Ordinarily, I wouldn't have replied to that message, but the way he phrased it was very hypocritical, and I didn't like that because I was about to become a mother even when he had kicked me out back then. It hadn't occurred to him because he was too busy thinking about himself and whatever nonsense his mom had been feeding him. And now, just because it's convenient for him, he thinks that he can ask me to come back and I'm gonna follow. So I just replied to him saying that it was very hypocritical of him to bring these things up, especially when he didn't care about any of it just a couple of weeks ago. I was about to block him again, but before I could do that, he replied to me saying he knew that he had messed up, but he was also going through a lot right now because he had just realized that his own family had ruined his marriage and I needed to cut him some slack. I couldn't believe that. Even after everything that had happened, he was still so ready to believe that he was the victim in the situation, as if he had no free will of his own. So, I ended up calling him on the phone number because I really wanted to give him a piece of my mind, and I didn't care if that was going to make the drama worse. I just wanted to vent out my feelings. When he picked up, I immediately put him on blast. I told him that it was not just his family who had ruined his marriage. He also had a huge role to play in that. Without his consent, none of this could have happened, and he can't stay in denial of that. His mom was able to mislead him into believing that I might have cheated on him because in his head, he could be misled. If he had trusted me the way I trusted him, he never would have even entertained that idea and would have spoken to me instead of going and getting a fertility test conducted and then kicking me out without even explaining anything to me. That's how healthy marriages work. People talk to each other instead of shutting each other out. So it was really weird of him to blame his family for everything when he himself was equally at fault. He tried to interrupt me and defend himself several times, but I did not let him speak at all. I just told him that it was pathetic that even after all this, he still believed that he was a victim when he was just as bad as the rest of his family. For no reason at all, he had already been suspecting me, and his mom was just able to use that against us. It was his own insecurity and paranoia that ruined our marriage, and he can't run away from that fact. After having said all that, I finally hung up. Now, I don't care what happens. I feel a lot better because I was able to get that off my chest. Update 2. Hey! It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and the divorce has been going pretty smoothly, so I haven't had much to say. Ever since that last phone call, Clark and I have had no conversations apart from when we have to interact through our lawyers. But on a one-on-one basis, we've just been steering clear of each other. I know that he has filed a lawsuit against his uncle and his fertility clinic. So with that and plus the divorce, I'm guessing that he pretty much has his hands full. We haven't even spoken about the child custody arrangement yet, but I'm guessing that we can put it off until our baby is finally born. I haven't really decided what I want to do about that because, honestly, I would much rather have my baby with me at all times, but my mom thinks that that would be unfair. At the end of the day, regardless of how he was as a husband, he might prove to be a good father. And if there's any chance that our baby can have a good normal life in spite of the current circumstances, I should take that chance. So I don't know. I might have to share custody with him, but I know for a fact that when the baby is too young, I'm gonna be able to spend as much time as I want with him or her. For now, that's my only consolation. My mom has been taking me to all the doctor's appointments, and things have been going smoothly with the pregnancy as well, which I'm really thankful for because I've been quite worried that all this stress was going to take its toll on my body and somehow affect the pregnancy. But I guess my baby and I are made of stronger stuff than I thought, so things are going well for now. Even then, all that said and done, I do find myself feeling quite disappointed occasionally that my baby is not going to have the kind of life that I had. I know that lots of babies are born into divorced families and they turn out completely fine. I don't have anything against the idea, but I don't know. I just hope that maybe my baby would have both parents working as a team. So I do feel bad about the divorce, but it's too late to turn back now, and even if it wasn't, I don't think it would be a good idea because clearly, Clark and I don't work well together. I think my baby would rather have 2 good parents who work separately than one bad team screwing everything up. At least that's what I tell myself so that I don't feel too disappointed about what's going on because the guilt is real. I feel like I'm taking away my chance at having my baby's happiness or something. It's weird because I know that I'm technically doing the right thing for all of us, but I don't know. It's not that easy. Update 3. Hi. So in my last update, I had been talking about sharing custody with Clark. And now that we are almost at the end of the month waiting period before our divorce can be finalized, he asked to speak to me in person after our meeting today without our lawyers. I agreed because I knew that this was going to be about the custody arrangement. And once we were seated in the nearby coffee shop, he told me that keeping the divorce and all our disagreements aside, we still had to come to a common ground about how we would raise our child. He said that we could take a breather for a couple of months because we just got done with the divorce and everything, and then we could start discussing the custody arrangement. But before that, he just wanted to speak to me in person so we could see if we were both on the same page or not so as to avoid any complications in the future. I told him what I wanted, that I wanted the baby to spend the most time with me in the initial stages because I felt like at that time, the presence of the mother was most important and he could keep visiting me whenever he wanted to. I was not going to stop him, and he could spend as much time as he wanted to with the baby. He would only have to leave for the night. I was going to be staying with my mom, so I would have all the help that I needed, and I wasn't too worried about doing everything on my own. He seemed fine with that idea, and then he told me that once the baby was a little older, then we would have to share custody, and maybe the baby could spend half the week with me and the other half with him. We spoke on it some more and decided to stick with this for now and make any changes once the baby is a little older. And if this arrangement doesn't seem to fit, then we were able to come to an agreement about the custody. I think we decided that in a couple of months we would speak to our lawyers again, have the paperwork drawn up, and get it all covered legally. The discussion actually went a lot smoother than I expected. And by the end of it, I realized that this was the first time that we had spoken since that last phone call where we fought, and we had managed to be civil with each other, so I realized that maybe co-parenting the baby was not going to be that difficult of a task anyway, and I'm really glad for that, because if he was planning on being difficult throughout that, I might have had to file for full custody, and I really wouldn't have enjoyed that, because I'm sure that he would have fought tooth and nail, and that would have been a whole thing. Rather than that, I'm glad that the two of us have decided to put our differences aside for now, just for the sake of our baby. In fact, after we got done talking about the custody arrangement, he even told me that he was really sorry that he hadn't been there for me as a father of the baby, and that I had to deal with all the medical stuff with just my mother by my side. I told him that it wasn't that big of a deal, but he promised me that from now on, he was going to try and be there for me, because that's the least he could do for me and the baby after everything that he had screwed up. He didn't say the words, but I knew that he was sorry about everything that had gone wrong. I guess he was scared of ruining the conversation that we were having, so he didn't bring it up. But he hinted at it, and that was enough for me. At least he has realized his mistake and isn't trying to get defensive anymore. Maybe later on, he'll actually apologize, but for now, this is good enough. He has also told me how things with his lawsuit against his uncle are going, and I know he's going to win a significant amount of money from that lawsuit, half of which he has already committed to me as child support. So for my sake and the baby's sake, I really hope that he wins. And also because it's what should happen. I really can't wait to see his uncle and his mom lose, because they totally deserve it. My anger against Clark has pretty much faded away, because I think whatever has happened, it's done with. Now we just need to focus on the future and make sure that our baby grows up to be happy. But I don't think I'll ever stop hating his mom and his uncle. In fact, I think I might just include it as a clause in the child custody arrangement. I don't want my baby anywhere near that arrangement. I don't want my baby anywhere near that woman and her brother. She doesn't deserve to be the grandma of the child whose life she tried to ruin. That's not gonna happen, not on my watch at least. My baby will only have one grandma, and that's going to be my mom. And if Clark has a problem with it, I might just go full custody anyway. But whatever. That's for me to worry about in the future. Right now, I just want to take a break, because I've just come out of a very stressful situation. Update 4. Hi. It's been 2 months since my divorce was finalized, and I'm currently nearing my 3rd trimester, so things are getting pretty heavy. So far, Clark has lived up to whatever he had promised when we went out for coffee, and has been pretty diligent in attending his appointments with me. He has also been coming over quite frequently since the baby has started kicking, and he wants to interact with the baby, which he's welcome to do. First couple of times that he came over, my mom steered clear of him for obvious reasons, because she knew whatever him and his family believed about her, and it was quite disrespectful. So she did not want to interact with him. But by the 3rd time he came over, he actively sought her out and apologized to her and told her that he was really sorry for falling for whatever his mom had been feeding him, and he knew that whatever he had believed about her was wrong. And he was really ashamed of himself for allowing his mom to get into his head. He also apologized to me on the same day and told me that even though he knew that we couldn't go back to the way we used to be, he would at least like for all of us to put our differences aside. And now that he was openly addressing the problems, he wanted just one chance from all of us to prove that he was not a horrible guy, that he had just been misguided, and I didn't see the harm in that. We would have to co-parent our baby together anyway, so I had pretty much already forgiven him and didn't hold any grudges. And my mom also seemed fine with it, so that was great. So that was that. Recently, I also spoke to him about what I had been thinking, and I told him I did not want his mom or his uncle anywhere near our baby at any point in time, even if he decided to patch things up with them in the future. And I wanted that in writing in the child custody arrangement. I thought that I was going to find it difficult to get him to agree to that, but luckily, he didn't put up much of a fight. In fact, he didn't put up a fight at all. He just told me that he could understand where that was coming from and he was completely fine with it because right now, he's not on speaking terms with either of them. And even in the future, it seems unlikely that he's going to be able to patch things up with them, mostly because he doesn't want to. So that was a huge relief, and with that out of the way, we have decided to go ahead and speak to our lawyers and have the paperwork drawn up to sign off on the custody arrangement soon. Update 5. Hey guys! So last week, I finally welcomed my baby girl into the world and she's beautiful. The labor was so long that I almost lost count, but thankfully, my mom was there with me every second, and even Clark showed up at the hospital as soon as I went into labor. When they finally handed over my daughter to me, it was all totally worth it. For the past couple of days, Clark has been staying with us and has been helping me and my mom out with everything. He's been sleeping on the couch and hasn't complained about anything, and I'm really grateful that he's here to help out. He seems very happy and excited about being a father.